Toys, toys, toys. Toys, toys, toys. Plastic and rubber effigies of our favorite pro wrestlers allowed us to recreate what we saw on TV in the safety of our homes, create ridiculous storylines, into promotional dream matches, even into toy dream matches. Megatron and Donatello versus Scott Steiner and Egon Spengler is still a Driver Wrestling Federation classic. But while toys were once seen as a distraction for children, they're now seen as a valuable investment, with many figures changing hands for hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars. Whether it's adults trying to recapture their lost youth, collectors looking to plug that gap, or savvy investors looking to make a quick buck, the wrestling figure market has gone through the roof, mainly thanks to the ease of finding information and fellow sellers and buyers on the internet. But not all figures are created equally, and some are far rarer than others. If you've somehow got any of these in your collection, then send them to me at Cultaholic HQ, and I promise I'll do you a solid and check to make sure they're not fakes. I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com, and this is 10 of the rarest wrestling figures ever. Join us! Number 10, Dusty Rhodes, Hasbro. For the vast majority watching this video, your first exposure to wrestling figures was quite probably the highly successful WWF Hasbro line of the early to mid-90s. Chunky, hard-wearing, colourful, it was a license to print money, and it was one of the most popular toy lines of its day. If you can think of a WWE star from this time period, then chances are that they had their own figure. Skinner, Marty Jannetty, even Ludwig Borger, pretty much everyone who was anyone got the Hasbro treatment. One of the rarest, both then and now, is Dusty Rhodes, which when you think of what a big star Dusty is, makes this whole thing quite odd indeed. While the American Dream's polka dot run wasn't exactly the high point of his career, it was still a popular and successful run, and saw him included in Hasbro Series 2 in 1991, ahead of other stars such as the Legion of Doom, Bret Hart, and Sergeant Slaughter. So, why is he so rare? When you consider that he shared a series with the likes of Roddy Piper, Ted DiBiase, and Jim Duggan, Hasbro probably thought, nah, I don't know if kids will really want this happy fat guy, and made less of him. Or it could have been a manufacturing error, or Dusty bought them all and booked his own weird figure federation. We'll likely never know. Number 9, Linda McMahon, JAKKS Pacific. For better or for worse, the McMahon family were the center point of WWE programming at the height of the Attitude Era. As wrestling was going through its biggest boom period, every Tom, Dick, and Harry got their own figure as fans were buying merch hand over fist. Everyone, that is, except for Linda McMahon. The matriarch of the McMahon Empire has never been released in action figure form, but a few prototypes exist and have floated around in the collector community. But Sam, you cry, if prototypes exist, then why did the figure never see production? A great question without a specific answer, I'm afraid. Speculation is that Linda wasn't best pleased with her plastic likeness, whether down to self-consciousness or vanity, and when you own the company, if you say no, then nobody is going to go against you. With her publicly distancing herself from the front of WWE's operations to focus on her political career, it's unlikely we'll ever get a mass-produced Linda McMahon figure. Sorry, Jen. So if you want to recreate Vince getting kicked square in the bollocks, then your best bet is to use one of the Golden Girls instead. Number 8, Big Boss Man, Star Toys. Licensing is a strange and complicated issue where a certain product may have different deployment from country to country. We see it today with Netflix being different everywhere you go, and the lack of a proper WWE network if you're a poor sod who lives in Canada. It's the same with physical items too. One figure may be released around the world by different manufacturers with different backing cards and even different paint jobs. Then there are the items which are country specific, like the amazing / horrifying Star Toys WWF dolls from Spain. I mean, just look at them. 14 inches tall and ready to rock, out of proportion, yet somehow lifelike, with big poofy hair and real clothes. They're like if Chucky decided to wrestle. Wait, hang on a second. Whether you like them or loathe them, what can't be denied is their collectability, with the rarest of the lot believed to be the Big Boss Man, a mint-boxed, mint-condition version able to command thousands of dollars. I mean, why anyone would want this is beyond me, and that's not forgetting that we spent tons of money on wrestling tat from Wish. Twice. Number 7, Hulk Hogan rookie figure, Poppy. To the average Joe on the street, Hulk Hogan is the be-all and end-all of professional wrestling. A man bigger than the business itself. He is a pop culture icon and a licenser's dream. Hogan has had all sorts of items made that feature his image, from t-shirts to cartoons to restaurants to whatever the hell this is, and of course tons and tons of action figures. One of the most sought after is the Hasbro mail-away, with legitimate sealed figs changing hands for hundreds of dollars. But the mail-away series is the gateway holy grail for your average collector. Seemingly anyone with a passing interest in wrestling figures knows of them. As for the rarest figure though, you're gonna have to look to Japan, where Hogan got his first ever action figure in 1981. Long before the red and yellow, Poppy Toys released the Hogan rookie figure during his Hogan Ichiban run with New Japan, but unfortunately it doesn't come with a mini hero Matsuda to break his leg. Number 6, Jeff Hardy, Mattel. The most recent entry on our list is Jeff Hardy from 2009. Part of the first series of Mattel Elite figures aimed at more adult collectors than kids, Jeff is rarer than teeth on a chicken. Unlike Linda McMahon from before, Jeff actually did pass the prototype phase and was mass-produced and ready to go, but was cancelled the last minute and allegedly hand-pulled out of shopping boxes by Mattel just before stock was sent off to retailers. All because Jeff Hardy had to go and rejoin TNA. Typical. Wrestlers leave companies left, right and centre, and if a toy is made, then so be it, sell it anyway. But with this being Series 1, as well as the first line in a lucrative partnership between WWE and Mattel, there was no way in hell it could be sold. Despite the figures being made, they are beyond scarce, and many fakes have sold for huge sums of money, with buyers being none the wiser. But if you do manage to get hold of one, it's a pretty cool toy, and like I said in the intro, I'll be glad to check out the authenticity for you. Number 5, Ultimate Warrior Collection, JAKKS Pacific. To say the Ultimate Warrior was enigmatic is a massive understatement, like saying that a cup of tea and a piece of toast is quite nice, or that I am a handsome man rather than drop-dead gorgeous. As such, Warrior merchandise is highly collectible due to Warrior himself being very toyetic, aka he looks cool. Kids would obviously choose him over somebody like Steve Blackman, for example. Just watch him in the ring running around like a mad dog with his face painted a million different colours as his mullet and tassels blow in the wind. If you can see that and think, nah, not asked about a toy of him, then you're just plain weird. During Warrior's wilderness years away from WWE, he signed a deal with WWE toy manufacturer JAKKS Pacific to produce some Warrior figures as part of their WWE line. This was a common practice at the time. Even Bruno Sammartino had a JAKKS toy, and this is when he wanted to strangle Vince Jr. for ruining wrestling. Warrior's deal included several super limited edition figures, such as a limited to 20 WCW return figure, a weird figure that looked a bit like a Greek statue, an unmatched Fury statue, and a figure based on his Royal Rumble 91 look, of which only 3 exist. Number 4, AWA MANIA, REMCO. While WWE reinvented the wheel with wrestling merchandising, they were not the first wrestling company in America to have its own full line of figures. That accolade goes to Vern Gagne's AWA, who partnered with REMCO in the early 80s in a deal that was allegedly offered to WWE first. The figures themselves aren't exactly great, basically being He-Man figures but with grappling skills rather than the power of Eternia, but they do have a certain charm, and the likenesses are actually better than some of the figures produced today. The main thing about being the first is that the majority of these figures were first-time depictions, which to certain collectors is worth its weight in gold. The line only ran for 4 series, and it featured AWA stars like Rick Martel, the Road Warriors, Kurt Hennig, and Scott Hall with his big fat mustache. But it's the final series that is the most sought after, featuring little-known talents like Ric Flair and a Midnight Rockers era Shawn Michaels. Obviously boxed is best, but even loose figures from this series can go for hundreds if they're in good nick with all their original accessories. Number 3, Wrestling Superstars, LJN. The first wrestling series to properly take off was LJN's WWE Wrestling Superstars. Coming out as Vince McMahon and Hulkamania were taking over the world, the LJN line was a monster success, even if the figures themselves were like muscly dog toys. If you find any of these mint on card, then you should be rubbing your hands with glee and dreaming of the opulent life you'll live if you sell it on. But obviously, some are far more desirable than others. The general rule of thumb with older figure lines is that the last series is usually the most valuable. Less demand means fewer figures, which retroactively means more worth to collectors. Wrestling Superstars Final Series sticks to this rule, and the 1989 Canada-only black card range commands thousands of dollars per figure if you're lucky enough to be in possession of one. There's the debut figures of the Ultimate Warrior and Ravishing Rick Rude for starters, but to many, the rarest and most desirable is the black card Macho Man Randy Savage. Savage had been released in the line earlier, but for some reason this re-release is the most desired, and a mint on-card Savage can cost in excess of $5,000. Even the little poster that comes with the figure can fetch hundreds on the secondary market. That's just macho madness. Number 2, Kamala Moonbelly, Hasbro. We talked earlier about the WWE Hasbro line, from the rarity of Dusty Rhodes to the ridiculously limited editions of mail-away figures, and so on. But one figure stands head and shoulders above them all in terms of rarity, and it's not the wrestler you'd expect. It's Kamala, the late great Ugandan giant himself. He of the big mask, no shoes, and the moon painted on his belly. And it's the moon belly which is crucial here. For some reason, 99.999% of Kamala Hasbros feature a weird yellow star on his belly. But a handful, and I mean a handful, were produced with the correct moon decal instead. It's another one of those weird things where no one really knows exactly why it happened. But with an alleged 24 in existence, a mint on card Moonbelly Kamala will set you back as much as $10,000. That's ridiculous. Imagine what you could buy with that money. It's a deposit on a house, or 33,333 Freddos, or 20 really decently sized bouncy castles, or a slew of amazing Cultaholic tees and other assorted merchandise for you, your friends, and your family. Cultaholicshop.com. And number 1, Rhythm and Blues, Greg Valentine, Hasbro. While Kamala is the rarest Hasbro that saw release, there is one figure in the line that blows it out of the water, and again, it's not the first person you'd expect. Greg Valentine. Yes, Greg the Hammer Valentine, former Intercontinental Champion with a face like a rock carved into the face of an angry man, and inspiration behind the rarest wrestling figure known to mankind. For about 15 seconds in the late 80s, Valentine dyed his hair black and badly mined the guitar as part of rock and roll dweebs, rhythm and blues alongside the Honky Tonk Man. A figure of this era of Valentine was signed off, prototyped and included in advertising materials, then was pulled before it ever went into mass production. Why? Again, speculation is rife, but the most logical and widely believed is that by the time that it was ready for production, the team was a distant memory, so Honky and a classic blonde Valentine were put into production instead. As such, there are believed to be around 3 Valentine prototypes in the world, with prominent wrestling figure collector Matt Cardona in possession of one of them. As for how much he paid, well, he got it in a job lot with other rare figures, paying an astronomical $43,000. Quite the healthy bank account there for the fella who was buried on screen by Kane, it seems.